We were chasing ghosts. Not real ghosts. That was the joke on our channel, Urbex Anomaly. We chased the ghosts of forgotten places, abandoned hospitals, decaying amusement parks, the skeletons of industry left to rust in the rain. My name is Alex, and I was the one holding the camera. We found the bunker on a tip from a subscriber, an old Cold War relic buried deep in a state forest in West Virginia. The entrance was a concrete maw half swallowed by ivy and dirt. The air that breathed out of it tasted of cold metal and damp earth. It was perfect. Maya was our tech girl. She could coax a signal out of a dead zone and had a drone she called Icarus. Dan was our muscle and our skeptic. He was the one who would kick down a rotted door and then complain about tetanus, and I was the narrator. The one who stitched it all together into something people would watch. The first few levels were standard, rusted bunks, peeling paint, offices filled with molded paperwork that turned to dust when you touched it. But deeper down, we found something else. A section sealed off by a heavy steel door. The stenciled letters were faded but still legible. Project Chimera restricted. Dan got the door open with a crowbar and a lot of cursing. The air that hit us was different, dry, still, like it had been trapped for 50 years. The room inside was a laboratory, but not a chemical one. It was a media lab. CRT monitors lined one wall like blank tombstones. Reel-to-reel tape machines sat collecting dust. And on a series of metal shelves, there were the tapes, dozens of them, thick, 2-inch videotapes in black plastic cases. Each one was labeled with a number, and below the number, the same 2 words, Project Chimera. This was gold. We knew it instantly. Maya set up the lights while I found a playback deck that looked like it might still work. We picked a tape at random, C7. I slotted it in. The machine whirred to life with a groan. I aimed the camera at the main monitor as the screen flickered from black to a field of static. Then, an image appeared. It wasn't a movie. There were no people. No story. It started with a simple black circle in the center of the white screen. A low, droning hum filled the room. The circle began to pulse, slowly at first, then faster. Subliminal images flashed for single frames. A distorted human face, a diagram of a neuron, a spider web. The hum shifted in pitch, becoming discordant, painful. The circle on the screen folded in on itself, twisting into impossible geometric shapes that seemed to have too many angles. They rotated and morphed, a fluid sculpture of wrongness. It felt less like I was watching a video and more like I was looking at a diagram of a migraine. The video lasted for maybe 5 minutes and ended abruptly. Cutting back to static. We were all quiet for a moment. "What the hell was that?" Dan said. Finally, some kind of psychological warfare test, Maya offered, trying to sound clinical, like a visual weapon to disorient people. "It was creepy," I said, smiling, "and our subscribers are going to love it." We packed up a box of the tapes, maybe 20 of them, and hauled them back to the surface. We felt like pirates who had just found buried treasure. We were idiots. We were fools. We had just opened a cage and we had no idea what we had let out. The first sign something was wrong came from Dan. We were back at our apartment, which doubled as our editing studio. I was logging the footage from the bunker. Dan was sitting on the couch, staring at a blank wall. He was sketching in a notepad, which was unusual for him. "What you got there?" I asked. He held it up. It was a page filled with frantic, overlapping drawings. They were the shapes from the video, the impossible angles, the twisted geometry. "Just can't get them out of my head," he said with a nervous laugh. "It's like a stupid song stuck on repeat." I didn't think much of it then. That night I was trying to sleep. But the low hum from the tape was echoing in my ears. I kept my eyes closed, but I could see the black circle pulsing in the darkness behind my eyelids. I told myself it was just my brain processing the day, the power of suggestion the next day. Maya complained of a headache, a bad one. She said it felt like pressure building behind her eyes. She was trying to clean up the audio from the tape, but she kept wincing. "This drone is messed up," she said, frustrated. "Listen to this." She played the audio track. It was the same low hum we'd heard in the bunker. So I said, "What's the problem?" "The problem Alex, is that I'm not playing it through the speakers, she said, pointing. The master volume is at 0. I leaned in closer to the mixing board. She was right. The digital meters were showing a flat line, no output, but I could still hear it. A faint, low hum, seeming to come from the air itself. We looked at each other. The first real seed of fear was planted then. A cold little knot in my stomach. It got worse. Dan stopped sleeping. He spent his nights drawing. His notebook was now filled with hundreds of the symbols. He claimed he saw them in the grain of the wood floor, in the static of the TV. Maya's headaches became migraines. She started hearing whispers buried in the hum, faint, distorted voices speaking nonsense. She would cover her ears, rocking back and forth, trying to make it stop, and me. I started seeing things. In my peripheral vision, a flicker of movement that would vanish when I turned to look, a shadow in the corner of the room that seemed to bend at the wrong angle, a perfect imitation of the shapes on the tape. The thing we brought back wasn't just a memory, it wasn't an earworm, it was a virus, a perceptual virus, and we were all infected. We had to know what Project Chimera was. Maya, through a haze of pain, dug into declassified government archives online. Most of the files were just walls of blacked-out text, but she found fragments, memos, footnotes in unrelated reports. It wasn't a weapon to be used on an enemy, it was an experiment in manifestation. They weren't trying to disorient people, they were trying to create an entity that existed only in the mind, a non-physical being that could be transmitted through patterns, through sound and light, a conceptual parasite. The project was shut down when the original researchers all went insane or vanished. They called the entity the Chimera. The tapes weren't a recording of the entity, the tapes were the entity. They were the delivery system, and by watching them, we had become the new hosts. We were the projectors, and our reality was the screen. The climax came on a Thursday night. The hum in the apartment was loud now, a constant, physical pressure. Dan was in a catatonic state on the couch, his eyes wide, staring at the ceiling, whispering about the angles. Maya was curled in a ball on the floor, sobbing. I was filming, I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I could capture it, I could prove I wasn't going crazy. The shadow in the corner of the room began to spread. It wasn't a lack of light, it was an active, hungry darkness. It crawled up the wall, twisting into one of the familiar, impossible shapes. It had no substance, but it had presence. It felt like reality itself was tearing at the seams. "Look," Dan whispered, pointing a trembling finger. "It's beautiful." The geometry of the shadow pulsed, and the lights in the apartment flickered in time with it. The hum intensified, vibrating through my bones. I could feel it in my teeth. Maya screamed, a raw, terrified sound. The shape on the wall detached itself. It drifted into the center of the room, a three-dimensional hole in the world. It was a living glitch. I aimed my camera at it, but the viewfinder filled with screaming static. I grabbed Maya, pulling her to her feet. "We have to go," I shouted over the noise. "We have to go now." Dan didn't move. He just smiled at the floating anomaly, a look of beatific horror on his face. We ran. We left everything behind. The camera, the tapes, Dan, we just ran out into the night. The sound of the hum chasing us down the street. That was a week ago. I'm alone now. Maya left 2 days ago. She said she couldn't stand being near me. She said I was a walking transmitter. She was right. I still see it. The shapes flicker at the edge of my vision. The hum is a constant companion, a low thrum at the base of my skull. The infection is in me, deep in the architecture of my mind. I have one of the tapes. I stole it before we ran. C7. I don't know why I took it. Maybe I thought I could understand it, reverse it, but there is no cure. I'm recording this message on an old audio cassette recorder. No screens, no digital files. I'm hoping that's safe. I'm telling you this as a warning. Stay out of the dark places. Leave the ghosts of the past alone. Some doors were locked for a reason. I have to destroy the tape. I have to. But I find myself looking at it, tracing the sharp corners of the plastic case. The hum in my head gets louder when I hold it. It feels like a part of me. There's a shadow in the corner of this motel room. It's watching me. It's waiting. It's starting to bend. It knows I'm telling you this. It knows I'm spreading the signal. And I think I'm glad. I don't want to be alone in this anymore. The shape, it's so very beautiful.